Good morning, everybody. We are back in the studio, and today I'm super excited. We've got Shannon Gonzales of Toot Sweet Macarons. It's not your first time behind the SK camera.
No, but it's fun to be back. Thanks, Sean.
It is. We love having you. So you own Toot Sweet Macarons, which is located here in Port Royal off of Rebo Road. Best macarons around.
Why, thank you.
In Beaufort County in the state of South Carolina, dare I say.
Don't go too far there, but I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you.
They're best for me straight out of the oven. I get the luxury every now and again of having one of those freshly baked. I like that.
Right. That's you and Tonya spoil you a little bit.
You do, just a little bit. We appreciate that. So we're not here to talk about Toot Sweet.
No, we're not.
As much as we love to talk about that and the delicious dessert that you have, you've got a new venture starting tomorrow as your first class.
Yeah, sort of. So a kind of side thing that I've been doing for the last 2 years is helping locals start a business here in Beaufort County. And tomorrow is my first presentation with any local office with the city of Beaufort, which I'm very excited to do.
Yep.
This program kind of started from the pandemic. As you know, and some of you may watch now, I started my home-based business in 2019 making macarons and slowly have grown, opened up the storefront last year. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of spouses, me being a military spouse, were forced to leave their employment to stay home with the kids because it's not like you can ask an active duty member to stop doing what they're doing for their country.
Right.
And many reached out to me to say, hey, Shannon, how did you do this from home so I could start earning some sort of income as well as taking care of my household responsibilities with the kids? And that had a lot of traction, more than I expected. And I created this program to start doing free presentations for military spouses.
Right.
So it wasn't eating into my personal operations and for me to give back to the community.
Of course.
With my challenges that I had, a lot of the information I was getting back from local jurisdictions for licensing felt very proprietary, and I didn't understand why. So I had to go and do a whole bunch of research, looking at different state departments like the Department of Revenue,
right.
DHEC being a food-based business as well, and really got into the nitty-gritty of all of the stuff that comes with licensing that seems very superficial on the top, but when you really dive deep into it, it's very important.
Of course.
Yep. And then with my background in banking, I had a lot of understanding on the financial side of why it would also be important for those to get licensed.
Right.
So this is my way to give back to my community that helped me be successful, and also encourage those that it's not difficult to do. It's not super expensive to start your own business. And even if you're starting small, at least you have the building blocks and the foundations to grow at your own rate.
So you're not backtracking and trying to be legal after you've already established a few things. And
exactly.
No red flags, therefore less audit opportunities.
Exactly. And that's where some of my clients would actually reach out to me because they got a notification for an audit and now they're backtracking, having to pay back taxes. I'm like, hey, listen, I understand. Let's get you successful moving forward.
Yeah. That's a huge, for anybody starting in a small business, even us in 2014 when I left my last career, I ran a small business. Essentially, it was a small business. Even though we were corporate, we were still independently owned, and every location is essentially a small business because we're in the community. We're in the Chamber of Commerce. We're just under the flagship of another company. But going into this, didn't know what I was doing.
Right, and a lot of the stuff that people come to me, they say, I searched how to start a business in South Carolina, and the first thing that pops up is getting an LLC through the Secretary of State. But that's not good enough. That pretty much just gives you a birth certificate for your business.
Essentially, yes.
Right? You get a name and then you set up a social security number, a tax ID number.
Right.
But there's a lot of not necessarily misinformation, but misunderstood information that I've been able to kind of weed through to figure out what's specific for that business needs. There's a lot of cases where getting an LLC isn't needed for them. For example, my business, I was a sole proprietor for the entire time out of my home. It didn't make sense for me to incorporate because what are the chances of somebody coming after me for any
exactly
assets?
Right. Yeah,
But going into my storefront, it made absolutely a lot of sense to
slip and fall.
Get to that LLC.
Yep.
Another great thing that I also provide is pricing of your product. So it's not a one size fits all. I have a client who they base their products based off of the total weight of their their product.
Right.
Mine is very material based, how much flour and sugar I'm putting it in versus how much it costs overall. And I really reiterate that a lot with my clients because it seems very tedious, but you're setting yourself up with the building blocks for when you do want to step into your next growth opportunity, you've already done all the hard work.
Yep.
I also provide people just realistic stuff that if somebody were to go and try to start their business today, at most it might take 30 days for you to get your business license to open up your doors to operate. Because here in South Carolina, you need to have all your ducks in a row before you're able to start accepting your customers or making sales.
Right.
Where another station that we were at was in California. Anybody can go in and get a business license.
Wow.
Pay like $45 and you're good to go,
done. Yeah.
right? But each person that comes to a one-on-one client, if they schedule with me, and to all of my group presentations, will get this little Buford Business Ownership brochure, booklet, that I source. I reference a whole bunch of different websites that they can go to, like the Department of Revenue, anybody who's interested in food-based, the food-based laws for starting out of their home if they're interested in doing it. And then some other additional information. So like go over basic taxes, some things that I wish I knew when I first filed, like how to properly categorize your stuff, some math formulas. I was a math minor, so I love doing all that stuff.
Math is great.
But basically this thing really kind of came out because I wish I had somebody that could guide me on this stuff because there's a lot of lessons I learned the hard way.
Yep.
If anything, it just took a lot more time than I originally expected. And it's been great. My clients, after they leave a session, their biggest takeaway is, again, the pricing option because a lot of people think they're either overpricing or underpricing when, in fact, they're like 75% of them are underpricing their product. But that can go any which way, too, if they want to continually do that. Well, let's justify why you want to do that.
Right, for sure. Because then you have to make more of this product just to make what you should be making, so therefore you're working twice as hard.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I let them know too is that success isn't determined based on what the outside is bringing it in.
No.
What I consider successful for my business is completely different than what somebody else like you or even my business partner Meg would consider successful. And so you have to think about your why behind it. And my one last freebie piece of information is previous banker here, how you claim your exemptions for your tax write-offs, you really have to think long-term about what your financial goal is. I had to verify income all the time for those applying for home loans and auto loans. And as a small business employer or small business owner, it's a catch-22, where if you write off more, you have less income that you can use on any sort of financing instead of taking losses every time where you're not paying taxes. So using that experience, I knew that was my strong point going into this. I was like, all right, what is my goal with my income that I'm earning?
Right.
But it's not necessarily something that each individual thinks about going on into this.
Yeah. It's a lot to dive into. It's a lot to think about. It's overwhelming, especially for someone first starting out. And then the typical Google search, but to have somebody firsthand that they can call you up if they have a question. You're right there. So what is the class? You have two coming up.
So tomorrow is Friday, November 4th. I've got one at the City of Buford at 500 Carteret Street, just above the Buford Digital Corridor.
Digital Corridor, yep.
That one is at 11 a.m. The class, my presentation roughly is about an hour or so, and then we'll have an open Q&A at the end for anything that I've missed or some one-on-one stuff. And then I have another one scheduled November 18th. That's also a Friday, and that one's at 6 p.m. So those who need to wait until after their work hours or whatnot, we've got two time slots to accommodate a whole bunch of people.
And how do they sign up for it preemptively? Or do you just want them to show up, or what's the best?
You guys are more than welcome to show up. We do have a registration link just to kind of gear how much we're going to be getting to make sure we have enough supplies for everybody.
Yep.
And if anything, another thing to reiterate is there's no business niche that's not off limits.
Right.
Retail business, so anybody who's selling a physical good, service-based businesses, so those who are teaching classes, doing in-home food classes, photographers, and then obviously food-based businesses too.
So this includes, like, say, an Etsy store. So if someone has an Etsy store, you have information.
Exactly. And then also those who are in sort of any multi-level marketing companies too. There's also some licensing restrictions that they'd have to also accommodate.
That would be your LuLaRoe.
LuLaRoe, Etsy, or not Etsy, with Scentsy. There we go.
Yeah.
Those types of businesses.
Yeah, makes sense.
as well as the military spouse community too. Anybody who's living on base, I know that inside, outside, backwards.
Yeah.
And I also set up tools for success when you do have to PCS. I'll let you know how you can get your fees refunded and what websites and resources to look for when you do move next.
Fantastic. It's a lot of information. Anything else before we sign off?
No, I am super thankful that Andrea and Linda with the City of Beaufort Downtown
Kudos
Operations
to those ladies.
got this together for us
Yeah.
so quickly. Again, every time I do something like this, it's just more powerful.
Yep.
People are feeling more confident. And that's exactly what my goal is. I just want you to give yourself so many tools to set up for success and figure out what works best for you. And every single person's going to leave with their next steps to know exactly what they need to do
Yeah.
for their own particular business.
That's fantastic. It's a great opportunity for a lot of people that are thinking about going into business. If you've just started your business and
Yes.
you can still go to this and learn what you need to do or what you need to rectify so you don't get caught.
Or if you're looking at doing a different tangent onto
Yep.
your business too,
Exactly
and
right.
how do I make sure that I'm still kept up on that legal
Yep.
side?
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Sean. I
All right.
appreciate it too.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.